Amazing. First, thank you so much for having me. It's actually a pleasure to spend some time with HLLA. So just to disclose, I used to be part of the board of trustee of California. But that was like in 2016 or 17. So, but then, things got busy and it was probably easier to focus really fully on Eva. But it's amazing to spend some time with you guys as well. I wish we could have done it in person, but I'm hearing that they're renewing the room so that it's really going to be like shiny and new for the next meetings to come.
Yes, well, we're delighted that you're with us too. We wish we could do it in person too. Sometime in the future, we will. Well, let me just share Thibault's bio with you guys. It's very impressive. He is the CEO and co founder of AVA, which is an AI technology company dedicated to break communication barriers for the 450 million deaf and hard of hearing people worldwide. He grew up as the only hearing child in a deaf family, and as a result has been fighting for 25 years for total accessibility. He's an engineer by training. He holds a dual Masters of Science from Ponts, Paris Tech, and UC Berkeley. His advocacy work has earned him recognition from Forbes 30 Under 30 and as the Humanitarian of the Year from MIT Technology Review. Wow, that's awesome. He has shared his insights to public conferences like TEDx, World Economic Forum, and Vivatech. After raising 16 million from top investors, the largest round for an AI accessibility company, Thibault has led AVA to multiple breakthroughs in real-time communication technology and helps organizations in the world, from top universities to Fortune 500 companies, make their communications fully accessible. He's passionate about using technology for social progress. He was born in Paris, France, and now lives in our own San Francisco in a 20-person commune that he co-founded. And he dreams of a world that prioritizes community over competition. Wow, we're so happy to have you and welcome. And we'll look forward to learning what you're going to tell us about your company. Thank you.
Amazing. I hope to have some things to share and maybe that you come out of it with some perspectives about the future, but also about, I think, the youth building, also trying to build community in a different way. I do believe that you guys have done this tremendously, like those HLA chapters are super, super important for building a sense of belonging and community. Hearing loss is what unites us or unites you guys, but at the same time, it's not just that, right? Like we all know this is friendships, relationships, helping each other, supporting each other as well. So yeah, so I'm gonna share my screen and you tell me if you can, because I wanted to make sure it was, fully accessible. I don't know exactly, but okay, so you tell me if you can see my screen there.
Yes.
Perfect.
And with the slides too? Great, awesome. So you'll see, I believe in like showing and not telling. So everything that you will see that is under the captioning is the EVA technology. It's in short words, the future of AI captioning, but it does include also human services. So I didn't call the human service now, but I will show you how easy it is to do this. It's a bit equivalent to card captioner, but we call it scribe just to make it easier for other people, hearing people, to understand what it is. Okay.
Can I
So
interrupt you just a
sure.
second, please? Could you slow down just a tad between your accent and your speed? It's a little hard getting what you're saying, and and we all want to hear it all.
Okay, I will try my best.
Thank you.
And this is also great advice for any speaker, so I welcome it. So our sort of mission is really to make communication disappear We didn't like just breaking them because it didn't really make sense to break them. What do you do with it? Making those barriers disappear, really with this kind of feeling of blue sky, right? Like there's a lot more communication and equality that can happen, which also led to our logo, which is the ampersand that you can see. 1 and 1 equals 3. We can all be in building something better in terms of communication if we're having the right tools to help us. So that's really our belief. My name is Thibault, as was introduced. Thank you for the very long bio. Just if people are interested to follow on their computer for the captioning, you can always do this by scanning this with your phone, or basically sort of like having eva.me/Thibault, my name. So this is really an easy way in which some people who have like low vision can follow on their own devices as well. So it's not just like saying one size fits all for the captioning. Okay, so this is one of our belief and tenets. Beyond this, I really would adore like getting to know you. So because of the format, we have limited time for it, but I would love to just, we typically ask a few things. We typically ask, who is deaf, or, from the culture of sign language in the room, who is hard of hearing, who is also, sorry, it's showing us a few things, but who is also hearing. So in this case, I'm going to assume everybody is with hearing loss, so that's really easy. But it's important to just like educate people within even any presentation to do this check. Okay. And I see that somebody joined, so that's awesome. Thank you for the brave soul who tried out the technology live. Finally, for the person who joined, do you mind just clicking the microphone so that it doesn't also add your own captions? I could mute it, but it should be the microphone on your screen. Okay, so I'm just gonna try and then hopefully, no, I think it's still muted. So I'm gonna do a new mode. So the person who joined on their QR code, would you mind just turning off the microphone? Because right now it's like capturing on both sides.
Would
All
you
right.
like us all to turn off our microphones?
No, no, no. That should be on Eva. Okay, it should be fine.
Okay.
Um, I'm gonna turn off. Okay, I think this works now, actually. Okay, great. So the what I wanted to ask you guys, sorry, before we start, is there's multiple people play different roles within an organization. So I thought maybe we could do just by show of hands in this group. Who is more the people person, like the person who's going to go to the conferences, the HLAA conference, who like really vibes with the community? I call it the conference magician or the community magician, who feels they're more in this regard here. Okay, I see a few hands.
Mm.
Amazing. That's great. Who is more the techie, like someone who, will actually really vibe with Ava, but has tried all the apps out there and knows a lot tech innovation and tech news and shares it to the other members, like typically shares emails there, like who feels more like this here. Okay, Judy, awesome. I think you're the tech whiz of the group. Okay. Awesome. There's always one that really sort of helps here. Who is really putting together the chapter, the events, like sharing the walk for hearing, for example, with more this person in this group? The person who, oh yeah, Sally. Okay, yeah, obviously, I could have told. And who's going to be somebody who's more into the advocacy or policy expert? So like, oh, for this thing, you should say that. So there's communication access provided, or like, hey, this is how you can actually get accessibility happen. Like, who's a bit more knowledgeable about ADA and all of that? Anne Bender. Okay, amazing. Judy as well. Amazing. Kenneth. Awesome. And we need this. Like, this is super important that we understand that the community is made of all those superpowers that all together can really create a lot more accessibility. And that comes from different strengths. And obviously, I'm forgetting some, but it was just, helpful for me to not just see like a bunch of faces and new faces, but already get a sense of what we're going to sort of double click on. So just to give you a bit of perspective, I'd love for you to walk in my shoes. So I'm going to have a bit of an intro and then I'll present you about Ava. and what makes it special, and what are the different innovations that we brought that are really changing accessibility today. So, the first thing to know about me is I was born in a French family in Paris. It's a bit like the movie Coda. Have you seen it in this group? Coda, it got the Academy Award, I think 2 years ago. It really talks about a family in Boston on like a fishery, but I'm really not like a countryside guy, so I was really born in Paris, but it was kind of pretty much the same story, growing up and not singing, but basically just having to support a lot my parents through accessibility needs. So in 1990, where I was born, was also the moment where ADA was edicted. And it was really an important thing because obviously this was a life changer. It's like maybe for the first time there would be accessibility everywhere, first in the US. About basically 15 years later, it also happened in France. So we had to wait 15 years for it to happen. But I remember because I was basically this boy in this photo demonstrating. This is what we do in France on Sundays. We go into the streets and we just protest for whatever cause. But in this case, it was a really, really nice one. It was about accessibility. Who has already been in the streets for a street demonstration? Like maybe in your young years, you guys had the whole 60s and 70s. No, Robert was the, yeah, it's really something because we can really feel the feeling of community. And so for us, it was really asking for sign language to be recognized and as an official language, but also under the premise of accessibility to all, for all, everywhere. This was a very ambitious law. And 20 years later in France, and obviously like 35 years later for the ADA, like, are we really in this case where we have accessibility to everybody, for everybody and everywhere? I don't really think so. And so this dream that we had originally, is maybe not as present because, one of the biggest problem that happened, sorry, I had muted my microphone, is that when we all saw it during COVID, people started putting masks, right? And then it really sort of like tested our system. Like we realized, other people realized what it meant to not necessarily fully hear everything, and then having to not being able to rely on lip reading as well. This was like a much harder conversation and situation, right? Am I doing okay in terms of like pace? I can like slow down a bit.
Still coming a little slower, please.
Okay, okay, okay. We'll try. And we saw for online conversations as well, if you guys, went on Zoom or Google Meet, sometimes the network was not really good. Sometimes people don't have the reflex to put on the camera. And, that means that if they speak, then you don't have both the lip reading and then at the same time the sound. And so this kind of made us really aware of problems of accessibility in many different situations. And not just us, but it opened up the conversation for a lot of hearing people all around us. So, this dream of accessibility, it really is the moment for us to fight for it. Because it's not just a phone call accessibility topic. Obviously, the phone call was the number one thing to focus on. But at the same time, when you're out there in the street ordering a coffee, when someone is coming up and asking for directions, when there's like this Zoom meeting to participate and people intervene or ask a question, but they don't have the camera on, like we really put in this difficult situation. So, as a French person, I really thought of protesting and saying, what can we do different? Why should we always have to knock the door to get access? Like, why is it that we have to convince a million people, a million businesses to act differently, a billion people to approach hearing loss in a different way? Why don't we take back the power? Was the question I asked. Maybe this is the painting from Eugène Delacroix in the Louvre Museum. My dad was or is a museum guide at this place. So he showed it to me when I was 6 years old. And basically, this is really important. It's like, what is the banner that you want to carry on, right? And that you want to show other people, like this is something that you're proud of. And so for me, it's accessibility. And for accessibility to happen, we need the foundation, which is autonomy. If we don't have this full autonomy, then accessibility is always the other place has thought of you and is making things accessible. But really, the most empowering version of that is autonomy, where you bring together or in a place what you need in order to be autonomous. If it's not possible because conditions are really specific, you may need accessibility. But the full world, the inclusive world that we're thinking about is a world in which the combination of both is present. And for a really long time, there's been tons of investment in hearing devices, right? You've all had used hearing aids, maybe cochlear implants, maybe those amplifiers and listeners, billions of dollars being spent in those devices. But how many millions and billions of dollars have been spent on captioning? Not at all like a hundredth of it. And so our goal was really to say today, how do we bring as much efficiency to captioning as there's been in terms of audio investments? And so we created AVA that is actually a compression of audio visual accessibility. And it's basically, its goal is to really provide 24/7 access, full communication access in any situation. Because the idea is not just to say we're going to provide a great IPCTS, phone captioning related services. It's like what happens in between in all those social situations we have. Even, you just had maybe Christmas dinners, maybe you had Thanksgiving a month before. How was that? How easy was it? Probably harder, right? And so all those situations that felt to us the most important ones, this is really what we said, how can technology help us accommodate us in those situations? So very early on in 2016, we launched Ava, and it became the first sort of app to provide and support group conversations. So I don't know if you heard about Ava before. Like, did anyone heard about the app, or maybe someone tell them about the app in the room? Just Elliot. Okay, that's great. Judy as well. Gary also heard about the app. Great. So we have a fraction of people. What was really important for us was the Thanksgiving syndrome. We call it this way. It's like you go in Thanksgiving dinner, you're really excited that you're going to meet your whole family, but like it really is a struggle in terms of communication. And so you only gonna speak to the person who's next to you, and you're kind of wondering, how could I hear better? How could I understand better what the joke is that made everybody laugh, right? And so for this to happen, I just have a video where you can see how Ava is sort of usable and used by people. Last Thanksgiving, it was used by 25,000 people all across the US. You can see the video here.
Thibault, the video is not showing?
Yeah, are you seeing the video?
No,
You're not seeing the video?
no.
Okay, so what were you seeing?
Maybe you lost your screen share.
I'm
Okay.
seeing the video, but there's no sound.
No sound. Got it. Well, I think, okay, so I just showed the beginning of the video, so sorry, who didn't see the video at all? Sally didn't see the video?
I can see the video.
Okay. Oh, you can. Okay. So I'm going to assume most people saw the video but didn't get the sound, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, the sound is just to add to it so I can comment on it. But basically, this is really an app and a desktop app, something you install on your computer. The app really helps for one-on-one conversations and group conversations as well. So I'm going to show you how it looks like. So this is the app. If you have multiple people speaking, it will recognize a new voice and color or add a new color to it. Okay, so this is really something where it used to be that you had to show a QR code for another person to join. So we have published a new version of Ava where you don't need to connect with the other people's phones around you. Okay, so for the tech quiz there, this is really important. I think, Judy, maybe just making sure you're here, just because it used to be something as a group conversation. And then over time, we've built the AI to make it work better and better. So now we don't actually need to connect or pair everybody together. The second thing we added is the idea of having a floating bar, basically a caption button for any situation. So you don't need to like search on the different software or like window, where's the captioning button, whether the subtitles, and sometimes they don't have subtitles. With this way, you have autonomy. You can have it really at any situation with you. So it is really this floating bar that you saw here. So I'm going to show that I can also like move the window. I can go and do something else. And the bar is always on top. Okay. So this helps me not have to always search. I can change, the size of it. For example, something where it would be like lower like this or like bigger. So it really is something where I just choose the window that works for me. I can also do something that is more, sort of full screen for, like editing or doing things like this. I can answer. So this is a button in which I can add a scribe, professional captioner as well. Okay. So I'm not going to show you all the features, but basically it became something that became very friendly to deaf or hard of hearing people. I can choose translation, for example, dark mode. I can activate speaker, coloring as well if I need to. So basically things that are more practical and those features that we've been asking as a community for a really long time. So you always have the captioning you need. Okay. Any questions so far on just the different like formats and ways to see the captions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Go for it.
How sensitive is the phone to picking up this group discussion? Where do the people have to be physically located? Just in front of their own phone is all they need?
So you don't need a phone in this situation, for example. See, I just have a desktop software. So it
Okay,
could be a web page that I open up, or it could be the desktop software here, and it's basically going to be enough to caption. It just needs to have audio, okay? If I have a phone and I'm in an in-person conversation, okay, I will have a situation in which I want to, for example, be around a group, right? So in this case, what we just recommend is something that works for up to 2 or 3 feet, okay? If you are really in a large room and there's a lot of echo and some background noise as well, you may need to connect to another phone as well. It's always going to make it better. But you don't have to for conversations for like up to 6 or 7 people. Okay?
okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Judy, you had a question?
No.
I think you muted.
That would mean at a dinner table,
Yeah.
if I've been using a tablet with Live Transcribe, but
Yeah.
if people are too far away or their conversations overlap, that it doesn't always work real well. But if you're saying that there could be more than one phone around the table just sitting there and it will pick up somebody all the way down at the end of the table.
Exactly. Yes. Because we need, like, when people speak really far, I just want to maybe explain you the principle. If I say a sentence, if I say a word, there's a certain level of energy, but it comes into the space as a sphere, right? And so a microphone that you put is only going to capture the little like surface of energy, right? So if it's just there, if I speak, it's already just like 100th of a sphere. So very quickly, the energy goes down just because of the volume, right?
Mhm.
So if you put your phone and then the person speaking is really far away, they're getting 1,000th, even 10,000ths of what's being said. And so in this situation, you can connect multiple phones together, simply scanning a QR code or downloading the app and then entering the username of the person who has Ava, and you will join their room. The same way as today you joined clicking on the link, on the Zoom link.
Right.
We can do Zoom like link clicking. We call it the Ava room link. It can be a QR code, or you can simply just, know the username. So for example, like, Judy might have Judy234 as a username. And so by just entering it into your Ava, you will join her conversation where the captioning is happening. Okay.
That's good.
Tracy,
good.
Tracy, you had a question?
Yes. My greatest concern is in situations with quite a bit of background noise. So my nemesis is an airport. It's just dreadful, between my CI, my hearing aid, and the background noise. So if I'm linked to Ava and I'm trying to communicate with someone in that situation, tell me about the limitations I need to be aware of.
Yeah. So are you communicating with someone, or is it like the announcement?
Both. My husband is hearing, and so I will be asking him a question, or he's trying to communicate to me, or even worse, the TSA agent who is hearing, trying to communicate to me in a lot of background noise about what they're trying to have me do or not do in the security booth.
Yeah, absolutely. So in this situation, it sounds like you're mostly discussing with someone in front of you, right? So
Correct.
in those
Correct.
situations, honestly, just the person in front of you speaks to it. You can potentially like move so that the microphone is closer if like the background noise. But the nice thing about it is that you can turn off your hearing aid to not be distracted by all the background noise and focus on the captions, right?
I see.
And so that could be
Okay.
less confusing actually to do it this way. And it will work really well with someone who's speaking in front of you. You will see when you answer your own words versus their own words in a different color with the
Yes.
speaker ID technology. And
Super.
Live Transcribe doesn't have speaker ID technology. So we did something that Google never was able to do. So that's something that, I'm proud our team sort of worked on it for the last 7 years to advance accessibility in many different ways. So nobody else does the connection of multiple phones together for group conversation. Nobody does a floating caption bar on top of all the screens to always have accessibility available. Nobody does live differentiation of different speakers because it really matters to know who is saying what, right? And the fourth thing that nobody does, and it's pretty major, obviously the translation, is what we call scribe. So scribe basically is the future of cart captioning. Okay. So we have a lot of respect for cart captioners, but like every single like work or job has evolved with technology, it is time to evolve the technology of the big bulky keyboard that is used for the captioning. And the future for it is a combination of AI, artificial intelligence, and human reviews. So instead of typing 100% of all the words using like combinations, right? If you know how the card captioning keyboards work, the scribe technology is basically providing AI generated captions that are then reviewed in real time on the specific interface by a scribe. Okay, so the scribe is somebody who can be trained in about 3 months, sometimes 2, 3 weeks if they're really good, instead of 5 years. Okay, so that means it's a lot more like available. You don't need a specific equipment, software. And so that means the prices of captioning are basically divided by 2. Okay, so that means for the same amount of budget of captioning, you're able to caption twice more conversations, or to have the budget and to use the budget you're recouping for other activities. You could invest a bit more into, like technology or an event like food quality, things like this as well. So this is not a small feat to divide the cost of captioning. This is what we're known for, the scribe technology, and it is growing, like doubling every year for the last 4 years. So we are now in Stanford, in Nike, Disney, so like huge companies as well, providing scribe type technology to deaf and hard of hearing employees. Okay. So this is something that, I could show you as well, but it's in one click. You don't need to reserve or book someone a week or 2 weeks in advance. They're available 24 hours before and sometimes even same day if you need to. And it's using the same interface. So you don't need to invite them to Zoom. If you have Ava on your computer or on your mobile phone, you can just add Scribe. It's a paid service, right? Because it's a professional on the other end, but it's like ordering an Uber taxi, right? You can order Scribe on Ava for captioning. Any question on that? Yep, go for it. Regine?
Okay, first of all, I want to say thank you for being here. We really appreciate this. And second, I think you touched on this subject. I used to be able to use different colors for different people, like Russ in red and Heidi in blue, but I can't seem to get that to work anymore. Do you know what I'm doing wrong or does it work still? It was really great. I loved it that way.
Yeah. When was it that you were able to do that?
Probably 6 months ago.
6 months ago. Got it. So in the settings, and are you talking about your phone app or on the computer?
It's phone app.
Okay. So here you see I open the settings and I can see speaker ID beta. Okay. So just by enabling it, it will enable the speaker ID function. So try to make sure this is not like, and you see it recognized that there was 3 people speaking. So just try to make sure that it's enabled on your side. And then if you still have a problem with it, you can like very easily message our support team with a 35% team. So the support team should be able to answer and then address your concern there.
Okay, yeah, because I tried to get the support team to help me with it, and because I'm trying to read and then watch, and I can't do both at the same time, so I'm not learning really what you're saying. So should I try the support team again?
So right now, do you see the captioning on my screen?
Yes, I see it. Actually, it's on the bottom. And it's not going all that well, so I put it on, I clicked on this captioning, and so I got it where I can move it around.
Got it. Okay.
Try and get so that I can look and read at the same time.
Okay, awesome. So you see right now, it's already making the distinction of colors between speaker 2, which is you, and me in green. Okay. So this is so everybody can also experience what it means by this distinction, right? And because I know that Regine is in pink, I'm just going to replace your name here and save it. And now it will recognize Regine. So Regine, do you want to just say something?
I'm not really following you.
Okay, so you saw how it picked up.
All the colors on the left-hand side. Is that what you're talking about? People in their daily life, work and school members. Is that what you're talking about?
I'm talking about the fact that it picked up your voice now versus my voice. So if I say it's me, it will say you. And otherwise, when you say something, it will say Regine.
The captioning that's on here gets in front of the screen. Okay, so okay.
Okay.
So I say region.
No. So this is just to show the rest of the people how the speaker ID technology works. So you really have an understanding of what everybody is saying. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So if you use Ava, you will see there's many different ways it could be used. So on the computer like this, but Regine was talking about using it on her phone. So on the phone, it will look like this. Okay, so you have different colors for different people. On top left is where you can change the different guests, right? And then you can click, highlight if something that is being said is really important. Most importantly, you can zoom in and out like a photo to make the text bigger as well. Okay. And then this is the QR code where if you need to invite someone else to the conversation, you can click on the QR code and they're like far away and they can scan directly this way. Okay. So Regine, for the speaker ID setting, you will find it by clicking on the wheel. This is how you get to the settings. Okay. And so by clicking on the settings, you will see a place in which it says, speaker ID. And just by enabling it, you will be able to access speaker ID. Okay. So yeah, so just to kind of wrap up a bit the conversation here, we are just 5 minutes away. The core goal of Ava is not just the dinner or social discussion, is really to make all those organizations, either workplaces, universities, but also like public libraries, transportation centers, like accessible for people. And so we've been able to, during the Olympic Games in Paris, for example, be equipping different agents all across, the different stations for international tourists, but also hard of hearing and deaf tourists as well, who wanted to communicate with agents. And so by very simply using their tablet or phone, they were basically real-time captioned. Okay. Have you ever seen this before? Yeah, so this was really a world premiere technology to do this at an international event, but we're sort of like, open and obviously excited to see how we can bring this into the Bay Area and to other places as well. And so this is where it's really important to think about advocacy. I think of advocacy as like this work that we're doing together, right? So if you have maybe like a favorite place or a place that is less favorite because they're not really accessible, but you would like to go and have access. It could be a museum, right, where the tours are not really accessible. It could be a library into the help desk is not accessible. We actually can equip them so that it's easy for somebody who's deaf or hard of hearing to come in, to scan a QR code and to have the captioning of what the main person is saying, right? So to see how it looks like, there's multiple ways to present it, but I'm happy to go deeper in a one-on-one or follow-up conversation together. And finally, I just wanted to end the presentation piece of it. After that, we'll have Q&A by talking about in the movie Coda, we actually realized that the deaf actors, needed to discuss with the hearing actors during the breaks, right? Like they had dinner, they had social, lunch, things like this. And they actually used Ava on the set to communicate with people because the interpreters couldn't be at every single table, right? And so this is really a situation in which it's not obvious in the beginning where to use it, but you really realize that Ava is like water. It really is everywhere. And you really need to sort of like sometimes like realize having it handy is also like a different philosophy of autonomy first and then accessibility. So thank you so much for joining this call and then obviously like hearing about Ava today. But we're just getting started. And so you can always follow us at ava.me, which is our main website. And obviously my email, Thibault, or T, if you don't want to remember all the letters, just T at ava.me is my email.
Well, I love that. I can remember that one without any problem.
Exactly. Kenneth, you had a question.
Yes, thank you for your excellent presentation. So what I'm picking up is that most of the cost of Ava is free except for the scribe. And if that's so, then can you say a little bit something about the cost of using the scribe?
Yeah, Absolutely. So the cost of using Scribe will be generally about twice less expensive than using a card captioner. So my ranges are about $60 an hour for a real-time Scribe available like without notice, and $120 an hour for a card captioner. Now, there might be like non-profit discounts and all of this. So sometimes we can go as low as $55 an hour depending on the situations. So I don't know if it's twice as expensive, but it's definitely, you know, a lot more competitive, is my understanding. Am I correct or am I far off?
I don't know the cost. I don't know the cost of carts, so that's
Okay.
makes sense.
Well, you asked that question. So is there anyone that can maybe in this group is aware of the costs of card captioning?
You know, it's been such a long time since we used it that I don't know at this point either.
Okay.
It's it's running at least 120 an hour now.
Yeah.
Card
Okay. So roughly exactly to what to my point. And can I just understand like you stopped using it because it was not really needed versus the automated captions, correct?
Right.
Yeah. Awesome. And so what are situations in which you are still needing accessibility today? Or is your life perfect and you know there's no really need for any sort of communication technologies?
I don't think our life is perfect, but we can make it as close as possible. But I have a question that's not related to Ava, but when I use Ava, it's almost 100% accurate and almost instant when I read stuff. But when I go to the TV and like to use the captioning on TV, I don't watch TV very often, but I'm limited in what shows I can watch because the captioning is so terrible. Now, with knowing that technology is out there, why can't the TV have better captioning? Do you know that answer?
Yeah, so when you have a pre-recorded show or movie, it's not really our business to do the captions of it because it is like, you know, it's like the economics of it is you just need to have a professional to caption the TV show once. You don't really need a company to do this live, right? Like you can do it once and then distribute this as a subtitle file so it's accessible to everybody. Now, for live debates and for all of those situations in which like that's legit to have it, we try to help. And a lot of people use Ava for TV as well, but they watch TV on the computer, and then the audio will be better because it comes from the microphones from the computer, which are closer. And so somehow the sound from the TV goes really surround. So it's not the best sound for the app. It still will work, and so that's why, have you tried using Ava for the TV? Like it's a common thing. Some people use it for TV.
Thank you.
Okay. Tracy?
I am aware that there are now AI programs that translate to other languages. Would you comment on Ava's ability to do synchronous captioning as well as translation?
Yeah, so I do. Okay, so I'm gonna speak French, okay? And you can
Ah,
see Ava
ah,
translating in real time. D'accord? Donc là, je vais parler en français, en temps réel, et vous voyez les sous-titrages en temps réel arrivent comme ça, directement. Et en fait, ce que
that
je dis, c'est que la traduction en accessibilité, c'est la même chose en fait que les besoins des personnes sourdes et malentendantes.
that is incredible. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. I can try other languages as well, but so we support about, you see, there's a lot. So we support
Wow.
25 languages as core, but we can go up to 50 with the different accents. Okay, so it really will cover most of the situations. We are used in medical situations. So you go to
Yes.
the hospital and you're needing like a conversation. Somebody is like a different language or is hard of
Yes.
hearing. You want to make sure you fully understand. You don't want to wait in the emergency room for like the perfect interpreter or the perfect captioner. So you can right away have full accessibility. We're HIPAA compliant. So that means even the doctor or the, we now have a worry to use Ava. Okay.
Incredible. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Elliot?
Yes, Thibault, did I understand from an earlier question that your basic app is free of charge, but you only charge for the scribe feature?
Yeah, so we have 3 plans. Okay. We have a free plan, which is unlimited and that you can have today access to. You simply sign up to ava.me. So I'm just gonna put the address there in the chat after. So, but it's just 5 letters, ava.me. So this one is free, okay? It's unlimited as well. You can have the pro version, okay, professional version, professional plan, and then you have the scribe plan, okay? So scribe, you got it. This is like using a professional help. This is great for really important conversations where you want to make sure it's 99.9% accurate. So what is the pro version? The pro version is what we sell to companies. It's not things that you pay for yourself, okay? That has advanced features, okay? Those advanced features are mostly things that people need professionally. So there's a connection to Zoom, okay? Sometimes you need to have a webinar demonstration, and sometimes you need to have vocabulary memory as well, like having a vocabulary that learns the words you use the most. That makes sense in a jargon in a company, right? So this is the pro plan we have. It's like the in-between plans, okay? So sometimes some people like you and I like come to us and say, I would like to have some of those features, but I don't work for a company, right? I don't belong to a company. So we have a plan called the community plan, who limits those advanced features to about 3 to 5 hours a month, okay, for low needs but high quality captions. And so this creates a 4th plan called the community plan, okay? So usually for you, you'll probably find the thing that works for you between the free plan, unlimited, or the community plan, which is made for you as well, with like maybe like 1 or 2 hours a week. If you need it more, that's usually the free or the community plan, one of the two. And the community plan is $15 a month. Okay.
So is your basic version, does that include that translation feature you just demonstrated?
It doesn't, because it's not often that you're needing translation often, but you can activate the community plan for, like, let's say you're doing a travel or trip in Morocco, right? And you need people who speak French and Arabic. And so you can do this for like a month. You pay $15. This is really helpful. And then when you come back in the US, you just unsubscribe. And this way you have, just like $15 of communication access while you were traveling. But when you're back, you don't need to rely on the translation.
Yeah.
Would that be a use case that makes sense for you?
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
Fantastic.
I think when either you or one of your colleagues, I think, presented to our chapter several years ago,
Yeah.
and it seems you've expanded the app considerably, because I remember at the time I was using Otter, and I looked at Ava briefly, and it didn't seem to be too much different at that time, and this is years ago. But you've really come a long ways, and certainly, personally, I'm going to give you a second look for sure.
Great. Give it a second, a third, and a 4th look as well. Like, I think it's very easy for people to make a first impression. We were a small team at the time, but just think of it as like trust the people. Not always the state of the technology. It's like, who are the people behind us? Other is Chinese people. It's Chinese money. They focus on profit. They've been quite stable for the last 5 years. They focus on other things that are exciting, chasing what's new and exciting. We focus on the mission. We focus on the community. We focus on features that make people happier. You don't need highlight sharing. You don't need police editing, audio playback. That's not what you need. What you need is something that works really well for situations that are challenging, and to do this reliably. And so that's what we deliver for you.
Yeah.
First, Judy, and then Stephen. Thanks for the question, Elliot. Okay, so Judy, you muted, but Stephen also you muted, so might as well unmute yourself, both.
Sorry about that. So the free plan has a 40-minute cap, and it would be nice if you offered a way to add on to that 40 minutes. Like, I don't know if it would be a different plan or like a cost
Sure. So
thing where you could just pay.
have you experienced that 40-minute cap yourself, Judy?
Yes.
Okay. So when the cap happens, you can very easily restart the conversation. Okay.
Okay.
It's a bit like Zoom used to have, you had like a meeting, and then if you're on the free plan, after 40 minutes, it stops, right? And it's a bit of an annoyance, but technically what happens in the background is like some people will, if we didn't have that cap, some people will let it run for like a whole day. And that like occupies server resources, which costs a lot of money for a free plan. So this is a natural cap, and you can always restart it. And that's a good check. Like, are you actually looking at the captions? Do you need to restart it or not? And if you pay for the plan, you don't need to have the cap. So that's kind of the trade-off there.
So if we were able to get a tablet set up at a customer service desk,
Yeah.
they would, if they were going to use Ava, then they would get one of the other plans that could, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, they could just access it when they need it. Just click on the app and get it started. They don't
Yeah,
have to have it turned on the whole time, right?
absolutely. So there's multiple ways in which you're thinking about a specific store or place. Do you have a place in mind, Judy?
Oh, our libraries.
Okay. So, you have the library and you're trying to like reach their attention or ask a question to the librarian. It's a bit complicated. There might be a new person who's not used to like speaking slowly or just like being very articulate. And so in this situation, you can have a tablet, but you can also have them like, you can like have the app yourself, right?
Right.
That would be very easy, right? To just communicate this way. So I really always encourage this. Now, from the moment where you show the app, they might get excited. They might be, wow, this is working really well. That's a great moment to say, why don't you equip the library so that anyone who's hard of hearing, who may not know about Ava, who didn't have the chance to come here, may like scan a QR code. You can like print a QR code on a poster within the library. It says, do you need access? Here's the QR code.
Okay.
You scan it, it will directly be connected to the phone of the librarian, right? And so that's how we use it for Nike stores. So you scan it, pings the phone of the librarian. They see, oh, someone at the access point wants to communicate. They come to you, and then the phone app is already there, and they can communicate very easily. So
Okay.
that's how we do this, yeah, for stores. Stephen, who's been super patient, what was your question?
Well, now I have two.
Great.
What you just said is very interesting, and I wondered if, do you have anything either pre-written or can you send us that explanation in writing so we can, we might meet at some point in the next few months with the board of directors. There's 10 libraries in our county of 500,000 people, and we'd like to get them on board on a couple things, but this is one of them. And I wouldn't be able, I understood everything you said, but I wouldn't be able to, recreate it. So that would be great. You can send that to HLAA Chesco at gmail.com, or I should put it on your.
HSCO?
No, Chesco, CHESCO.
CO?
At gmail.com.
Okay. At gmail.com.
It's CHES. Yeah.
Got it.
Okay. There you go. You got it now. Oh, thank you.
Okay.
The other question I have is a little maybe strange. Sometimes I am. In the United States, under Medicare or the Accessibilities Act, I'm not sure exactly, but everybody can get caption phones. I've never gotten one, but I've also seen people have them and they work okay, but it seems like it's always a big lag time for them. Anybody I'm on a conversation with that's using one. My question is, have you thought about getting involved with some of that federal funding to be able to provide to senior citizens your service? Because
Yeah.
the people like Caption, I'll take CapTel.
Yeah.
You know, every time they place a phone, they're getting a monthly fee from that government fund, and it seems
Absolutely. It is a very lucrative business for those people.
yeah.
But I think the situation here is like the law was created for telephone services, right? With the FCC. It doesn't cover, customer service, retail, or, all those moments in which captioning is needed. So if the law is changing towards our direction, then, we'll definitely, tap into this. But so far, it's like we're not going to wait for the government to pass on that law.
Right.
There's a lot of work to do, right? So, and the private sector is really happy about what we're providing as well. So, you mentioned the idea of the library, right? Like, what do I do, or how do I do if like it's not a library and you don't have my email and you'd like to like propose something? You can just go to eva.me, right? It means make me audiovisually accessible, right? That's what eva.me means. And then within the website, you can see 4 organizations, and you see the different like ways in which Ava powers things. So maybe it's healthcare, right? Like you have a doctor and you want to recommend them to use Ava, or it's retail, right? Which is where we put the libraries under, or maybe it's religious services, like maybe the church you have locally would need.
I'm Michael
help
Hamus,
as
and
well.
I'm the
Oops, sorry.
pastor.
So those are full of videos and then helpful ways in which other people can sign up and then learn how to use Ava within their own situations. Right. So this is for like church. We equip a lot of churches in the US. This is for a live event. This would be for like a library as well. But I will send you specific documentations there, but just for the rest of the people, if you're wondering. Okay. And we had Larry who had a nice
Yes,
question.
I had a quick question about it, this like translation from French to English in real time really requires very good connectivity in the network and so forth. You're not doing that on my phone. You're doing it in a server in the cloud someplace.
Yes.
And so if I'm in Tahiti or in Fiji or some remote place, do you have trouble with the delays that are inherent in the networks?
Yeah. So I would say 2 things. First, within a year, this translation will happen locally on your phone without internet. Okay.
Oh, really? Huh.
What you will need to do is maybe download the language of the country in which you're going, and then it will be enough. Why? It's because of large language models. You probably have heard of generative AI and all the fuss about AI. It really means like there's a whole dictionary, that now is getting more and more compressed by the industry that can like fit more and more into phones. And so that's really, why within a year we'll be able to also do this. Okay. The experience will be you choose the library or the language you download before the trip, and then you can have that conversation without even internet. Now, at the same time, you've heard of Starlink, right? You've heard of the development of internet, even in Fiji, even like remotely in the ocean and stuff like that. And so at the same time as things are getting offline very possible, there's also more and more connectivity of better and better quality with the 5G, maybe the 6G. And so this means that there's less problems of latency for those things. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. Like maybe there's still going to be like some problems here and there, but within 2 or 3 years, it's going to be for sure like really fast. And with Ava, it's already fast if you have Wi-Fi or like a good data plan in another place.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just I want to be mindful of time, already 35. Maybe Jerry, you'll have the last question, and then we'll go back to Sally.
There we go. First of all, will somebody email me the stuff he's sending to you guys?
because I'm not in your chapter. Well, I don't know if I'm in the, I got this through the local HLAA groups. Okay.
Maybe the easiest would be, Jerry, if you want to add your email after your question to the chat, so I can just also have it, and I'll just CC you.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Second of all, where were you 50 years ago when I had to practice in a hospital that had about 50% Puerto Rican populations with no, I've been a nurse for a long time. This would be a godsend to a healthcare worker today.
Mm-hmm.
Just thank you for doing this.
You're welcome.
I might add for people that we are recording this session and it will be available online in about a week. So you'd be able to see all this again or tell your friends about it.
Amazing. Yeah. Tell all your friends about it. And, very down to have other presentations with the HLA chapters. And then you may be like having a conversation with the national part, just to see how can we potentially support more HLA supported events as well. I do think, I think, Sally, you mentioned that I live in a house of 20 people. So it's very much a community every day. And it's really, really important that we all help each other, finding the new things, but also putting people in relation and connecting them. So, if you have people who may benefit from AVA, or maybe they've tried and they want to learn more about it, my email is, I'm going to post it at the same time now. And yeah, and let's go back maybe to Sally for maybe the rest.